most of the people here already know Lumina. We are the largest private foundation in the United States that is solely focused on post-secondary education. If you went to Jim Collins' speech the other day, he was talking about these big, hairy, audacious goals. So Lumina set one that we call Goal 2025, with the hope that more Americans get something to show beyond high school. We hope that 60% of Americans by 2025 hold a quality post-secondary credential or degree. We need a lot of people in this movement. The march is on, and we need a lot more 20-milers. We believe in the power of social innovation, and we were lucky enough to find a lot of ideas. So we started the process a few months ago. We launched this prize and got hundreds of submissions, narrow it down to 10 and then to 3. And we have the 3 finalists here. We're very proud of you. Whatever happens, happens, but we're very honored to have you. The way this is going to go is we have a panel of experts that are here on my right. I'm going to be sitting with them. You probably know them already, but Dan is with B-Lab, Ann is with GSV Acceleration, and Nasir is with Village Capital. And they're going to be the ones that will ask questions first. But then we're going to give a choice to the audience to participate. So I may take a couple of questions for each one of the pitches. And then what's going to happen is once we have these 3 entrepreneurs presenting, get the questions from the panel, get the questions from the audience, we'll start the deliberation process. I ask our amazing people back there that put some music on so we don't have the rumor and all that. We're going to be deliberating over here. The audience will be able to vote on the poll in the app. So you have to have the app ready. And then we'll see. I mean, there's a chance that we have the same winner between the audience and the panel or not. We may have 2 winners, so we'll see what happens. So without further ado, I want to ask one of these to just come up here and tell the story. Once again, don't be distracted if you see people coming in the room. We have great stories to hear. In the app, the companies are listed in one way. We're going to reverse the order. So in the app, it says Career Village, Leap Savings, and Signal Vine. But we're going to ask the representative of Signal Vine to come in and take the stage. So all yours.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me here. Hello, my name is Brian Kathman, and I'm the CEO of Signal Vine. Over the next 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you how we've rethought communication systems in higher ed. The education experience is complicated for students. It's full of complex information, deadlines, and unknowns. The path students must navigate is a maze of activities, and it's challenging to make it through. So communicating information and providing support and guidance along the way is essential. But today's communication systems don't work. Students don't read email, and social media is highly fragmented. In 2015, Pew Research found any given social network is preferred by only 30% of students, which means an institution needs to figure out which social network for which student, and then make sure students accept them there. But nearly all students text. This is how they communicate, and this is how we should be interacting with them. Text messages captivate the recipient. In fact, 95% of text messages are read. And in a complex environment, they force a simple message. But they're interactive by nature, opening an entirely new communications channel with the institution. And for these reasons, they are the perfect nudge to nudge students through and achieve outcomes. And what makes them so effective is text messaging is personal. It's an intimate form of communication. But it's not practical for me to pull my phone out of my pocket and text hundreds or thousands of students. It just doesn't scale. If I tried to text 500 students right now, I'd be lucky to make it through 10 before I had to start responding to incoming messages. It would take a ton of time, and there are privacy implications on both sides. As soon as I text the student, they're going to have my phone number, and then I'm going to have personal conversations and student data on my handset. Not to mention there's no oversight, and there's no way to tell what's working, which is why we developed Signalvine. It's a platform to scale personal text interactions across the entire enterprise. Our intelligent messaging platform is able to personalize every message for every student so she gets the right message at the right time, and it's relevant and interactive. Now, we do this by allowing organizations to schedule a program of messages over a semester or over a school year. And we use the data on each student to make each message personal and relevant. We make sure that it's delivered exactly at the right time to create urgency and a call to action. When the student receives a message, it's an SMS. So there's no app to install. And when they reply, it comes into our system and shows up in a text messaging inbox of their advisor or counselor that they're working with. And when an advisor or staff member interacts, it feels like messaging from a smartphone. It's a private, real-time, and personal conversation. And we know it works. In fact, in college access, researchers found when using Signalvine over a summer with incoming freshmen that just 10 personalized messages to those students with interactive support through Signalvine increased matriculation by as much as 11%. And in college success, when college freshmen were provided the same text support and interaction, they increased their persistence to sophomore year by 20%. And in college affordability, researchers found that new loan borrowers, when provided this interactive text support, borrowed 20% less than without it. So by increasing connections to the institution's resources, we consistently find positive outcomes. Whether it's in academic advising, first-year experience, admissions, financial aid, concurrent enrollment, and many others. And in just 2 years, we've worked with 150 organizations servicing many of these use cases. And we're proud to have a lot of positive results working with disadvantaged and first-generation students who otherwise lack support networks. But what if all U.S. higher ed institutions were communicating effectively with Signalvine? We extrapolated the research to find that more than 300,000 students would be matriculating, more than 400,000 students would be persisting, and more than $5 billion of attrition costs would be saved every year with Signalvine. So by fixing broken communications, we can increase connections and improve post-secondary outcomes. Thank you.
Any questions for Brian?
Brian, can you take a little deeper? Sorry, trying to get a question. Seems like it could be at the high school level as well as the college level. And of those customers, who's your first point in terms of partnerships? Like, how do you implement Signalvine at the high school level as well as the college level? Seems like there's two in there.
Yeah, so we work with, for the college going process, we work with a lot of college access organizations. That's actually how we got our start, working with organizations like You Aspire on college affordability, a lot of other organizations along the way on that. We started working then with a lot of post-secondary institutions. We have a great list of private and public 4-year and 2-year institutions that are all using it. And typically what happens is they start using it for a particular use case, like first-year experience or admissions or financial aid. And then the enterprise starts to get wind of it, and they start to want to actually use it across all the different use cases. And we designed the platform actually to do just that, so that you can scale it and you can maintain the privacy of those communications across departments, across use cases, and across users.
And Brian, can you talk a little bit about the support for answering these questions or the response? Is that using existing university or college resources? Is it new? Is it 24/7?
That's a great question. So, we're the technology platform and the institution that is going to manage the communications. So they design the messages, the program messages that go out. They can interact manually on their own with students at any time. Our system, though, has an intelligent backend built into it that can actually automate not only the sending of messages, but we can listen as messages are coming in and react. So if a student says that they've completed their financial aid, we can check that box off in the system automatically. But there's always going to be more complicated conversations. So the institution's resources are typically the ones that are going to go in, work with the student, and converse. And actually, the advising doesn't always happen, obviously, over text. In fact, most of the times, it prompts a meeting or a phone call. But surprisingly, we actually have countless examples of advising happening over text and doing just that. In terms of the resources and kind of planning, it's actually a really efficient way to communicate. Not only is it short bites of communication, you can have dozens of these conversations kind of going on simultaneously. But because of the nature of the program messages, you can actually design the messages all to go out, say, at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. And then your team knows that for the next hour or two, you're probably going to be doing student communications. Students can text in at any other time, so there is certainly a 24/7 component to it. But typically, they're responding when you send one of these program messages out. But you can also turn on like an out-of-office sort of auto response so that if a student texts in and you're out on vacation or it's the weekend, it can automatically let them know that you got the message and that you'll get back to them.
Brian, I'm curious. I know there are a lot of these like messaging services in a lot of other industries as well, but I'm just curious about the competition here. Are there other groups that are doing this in education? Anything unique in that industry about yours? Right.
That's a great question. In fact, we get that question quite a bit. So there are other ways to communicate. I mean, our biggest competition is email. Quite frankly, convincing institutions that email is not as effective. The other examples are there's certainly apps where the students all have to download the same app. But we found, and we know this because customers come to us saying, hey, we tried an app to do messaging and communication, and only 10% of the students would download it. With SMS, you actually have access to all 100% of students right out of the gate. You obviously have to have their consent and opt in, and they can always opt out. We only find like 5% of students are actually going to opt out. So it's an incredibly efficient way to reach all the students compared to an app. The one other way that organizations have been using text messaging, which probably everyone knows, is emergency alerts. And that's fantastic for that purpose. The problem with emergency alerts, and that's really the other form of competition, is it's the same message for every student. And even if you personalize it to some degree, it's not interactive in two-way. And so what we know just by the data, and we see the message traffic, that if every message isn't relevant, the student engagement drops off immediately. So you need to make sure the messages are relevant. And if you don't have that relevancy, such as in an emergency alert, if you're trying to use that for advising, students are going to start ignoring the next message, and you never want that to happen.
That's great. I'm going to take questions from the audience, but the thing is, since we are tight on time, and remember you're voting too, I think in this case we can take one or two questions. So anybody there has a question for Brian? And we have one. We can hardly see, so we're going to do the...
I have missed part of your presentation. I apologize. But have you used this communication for financial aid information?
Yes. In fact, that's probably one of the most commoner and initial use cases was around financial aid. And there's two ends to this. One end is when students are going through the college going process and trying to think where they can go. Affordability is obviously a huge piece of it. And if they're not getting their financial aid in, so these college access organizations will actually prompt them to make sure that they've completed it. There's deadlines associated with it and everything else, but they can also provide the support and help to make sure that, my parents didn't file their taxes yet, what do I do? Or my parents are going through a divorce, I'm not sure if I can get that information, can I still go through the process? So there's a lot of that. The second piece of it that is actually in some ways just as, if not more critical, is the persistence piece around financial aid. And we see this time and time again that if students get in, they think that they go through the financial aid process once and they're all set. But if they don't renew their financial aid by the end of January, then they miss that deadline. All of a sudden they go to start their sophomore year and they realize they can't afford the tuition anymore because the financial aid dropped off. So that is a huge part of the problem. So being able to not just communicate and let them know that there's a deadline or let them know that something needs to happen, but being able to have that interaction, because every student situation is unique. and you need to be able to kind of help them through the process, and that's what we found the interaction really is critical for.
And for that's it, because we are running tight. So Brian, thank you very much. We're going to get up Leaf Savings. Pass that to you guys.
Should we try to take it out next time? Oh, yeah, that's good.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Duffus. I'm the founder of Leaf College Savings. And we're a fintech company, but I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how we are making higher education more accessible to the broadest group of Americans. Many of you have probably seen this statistic, but a child is 7 times more likely not just to go to college, but to graduate if they have any amount of college savings, regardless of their socioeconomic background. That said, 73% of Americans consider having enough money to pay for college as their #1 financial concern, even above their own retirement. But unfortunately, 2% of households control nearly 100% of the $250+ billion in tax advantage 529 college savings assets today. We solve this issue. And with that, 63% of employees would sign up for a college savings plan if it were just available at the job, just like healthcare, retirement, insurance, why not college savings? As a side note, pet insurance is available in nearly 100% of Fortune 500 companies today. College savings is only just beginning. We take down these hurdles in making college accessible in companies. Right now, it's an administrative nightmare. There are hundreds of plans and tax-related benefits by state that make it difficult for an employer to choose the best program for their employees. At Leaf, we're a marketplace. We support 100% of the plans, the 529 plans today, enabling an employee to pick and choose among any plan they want to for whatever reason, whether it's the tax benefits, the performance, or they like a particular fund program. And then once they do that, all they have to do is select how much and when they want it to come out of their paycheck. And because it's so simple, employers can even offer additional benefits like matching, just like a 401k. We've had great reception in the marketplace today. In the little over a year that we've launched the product, we signed our first Fortune 500 client in Booz Allen. And as we talk about, as I mentioned it here today, we literally finalized an agreement with Aon Hewitt to distribute our product among their Fortune 500 clients, driven by the demand from marquee organizations like Booz Allen, PepsiCo, Goldman Sachs. The group benefits market is huge. We support the nearly 90 million employees that have 401k plans and that are parents. And we see this as about a $2.5 billion a year fee opportunity for Leaf and the corporate 529 solution. We're growing exponentially on a quarter-over-quarter basis. We have a simple fee-based model, but probably the biggest thing is nearly 70% of the employees that sign up with us never had a 529 plan before. And average contributions are about 40% higher than the average industry periodic contribution. And we see on an annualized basis 11% penetration among our partner clients. 529s for employers are just the beginning. Gentle nudge, but imagine Lumina started a scholarship program for every college freshman in the United States. They would utilize a platform like Leaf to manage that. And we see any number of different opportunities in terms of leveraging our platform for future use. Thank you very much.
Chris, could you talk a little bit about your go-to-market strategy? How will you roll out quickly?
Sure. We have a traditional sort of inside sales approach, where direct email, inside sales. One of the interesting things, and it's why I mentioned the 401k program, because 401ks are regulated by the Department of Labor, they actually have to file a form every year called a 5500, which literally notes every stakeholder fiduciary of that 401k plan, CFO, head of HR, and so titles, emails, addresses. So I literally have my list handed to me by my marketing list by the federal government. And then with that, we contact them. Our biggest challenge is just making people aware that this is a product available in the market today.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little more about your team. I mean, when you're an early stage company in general, I think your team is very important. So in terms of skill set and what do you need to, what type of team do you need to build to really grow this company?
So what I would say is that my team and I, this is not our first rodeo. We started one of the first government payment processors in the country. Clients like the U.S. Treasury Department, Bank of America, BNY Mellon, states like California, and we, while it was a different product, similar market, similar sort of go-to-market in terms of how we did this. We see in terms of, as we grow, definitely more sales, more sort of customer success people, and obviously product development folks.
My question, I think, is going to be a little bit more theoretical.
Sure.
So going back to that first statistic that you shared, I'm curious with like the clients that you're talking about, Booz Allen Hamilton, Goldman Sachs, et cetera. Those don't strike me as the companies with employees that are addressing this challenge in higher education, which is the underrepresented people getting those degrees. And so I'm just curious about your strategy or your thoughts on whether this product serves that need and how it does that.
Sure. First and foremost, it's about accessibility and then with that sustainability. And so these folks, obviously, they're Fortune 500 companies, their employees get paid a lot, but they're also leaders in terms of innovation and marquee in terms of driving adoption in other companies. And so, Goldman Sachs signs up and offers this as a benefit. Well, Walmart might do the same thing for their, 500,000 or 1 million employees that they offer. And if you think about like 401ks, if they weren't offered by companies, nobody would be saving for their retirement except for certain people that already had money saved, that were wealthy to begin with.
Any questions from the audience? I guess our people helping with the mic will have to tell us because we don't see a thing. No questions there. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our third finalist, Jarrett. Career Village.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on stage with such an awesome organization, so thank you all. My name is Jared, and I'm one of the founders of careervillage.org. I want to start with this. So getting a degree is complicated. You have thousands of credentials to pick from, thousands of educational programs you got to sort through. It's going to take you a lot of time. It's going to cost you a lot of money. And navigating all this is especially difficult if you're first gen or if you're in a low-income community. But you can't not navigate this complexity. It's really, really important that you make good decisions about all these things that you have to do. In fact, if you don't have the right path or even the right goal in terms of your career goal, then everything else you do sort of doesn't live within an actual target and may be wasted time. So one of the big challenges that we think is really important is how do you do navigation of all this complexity at really large scale, especially in the long tail of students who don't have a lot of other resources. So that was what we position as really the biggest challenge in reaching Lumina's goal 2025, is doing navigation at scale. So this is especially difficult in the context of the student to guidance counselor ratio. There are almost 500 students for every guidance counselor in America. That means you get a really small amount of time. You get like on average 8 minutes or something one-on-one with a guidance counselor each year. So really very little time. Career Village fills in that guidance gap, and we do that by taking every dollar and every decision and every day, and we put that in the context of your longer-term career goal. And that's why we say if you want to talk about degrees, you really need to talk about careers. So I left my career at McKinsey & Company to co-found Career Village. We are a crowdsourcing platform. We crowdsource advice and guidance directly for students. It's all personalized. And our Q&A interaction enables us to do this at really, really massive scale. It starts with a student's request for advice. So Anne-Marie is a high school freshman in Boston, who posted this question about becoming a pediatrician. And our site automatically compared that question against the LinkedIn profiles of our volunteers to figure out who could answer the question. And then it automatically sent that question out to them. So for the volunteers who are used to volunteering in person often, it's really game-changing for them to be able to volunteer as well from their cell phones or from their computers. The advice that Anne-Marie got is really inspirational, and it's very helpful for her to make important decisions about classes and summer programs and after-school programs of financial aid and degrees and really her career goals. And other students are able to see it as well, and then they come in to post thank you notes or follow-on questions. This program works super well. So we have a 99.9% answer rate. Questions get answered multiple times, and they usually get answered for the first time the same day that they get asked. And then all this content is then indexed and searchable on Google. So there are a lot of educational programs that use Career Village in their curriculum, but 9 out of 10 of our students actually found us on their own while they were searching Google for information about college and careers and summer programs. And that's how we have content that covers over 10,000 career and college and summer program topics. That's all user generated, and we're on track to serve our 1 millionth student sometime later this month. So how do we pay for all this? When we kind of got launched off of what we call grassroots, basically the volunteers gave us donations. And then we started to improve how we talk about Career Village, and we started to win grants. Recently, though, we've unlocked a new revenue stream, which is corporate partnerships. So what we've learned is that companies care very much about getting their employees to volunteer. And because they're used to doing that in person, planting trees and building schools, they have large budgets to support it. So we can offer companies one simple volunteer program that the whole company can do on the internet for much less cost than what they do today. And that's really been a great program for us. The University of Michigan, some researchers at the University of Michigan have done some research on Career Village, and their preliminary findings show that first-gen college students are more confident in their ability to get career information. They are making better career plans, and they are better able to navigate the college application process. And what really warms our heart is what happens when you ask a student what it feels like to get career advice on the internet. Navigation is the core challenge of reaching Lumina's goal 2025. And every day on Career Village, students are making critical decisions that will make them better suited for degrees and for careers. Thank you.
So I actually might have a few questions. I'll start with one, and then if there's time, I'll circle back. I'm curious about the curation of your volunteers or of the content. Do you think there's a need for that, and how do you go about that?
So we don't curate the volunteers. Basically, everybody's welcome, and the sign-up process is pretty easy, so they just kind of come right in, and that enables us to have CEOs and truck drivers, and we had a welder sign up this morning, and marine biologists, and everybody is kind of in there. But we moderate and watch the content very closely. And everything is basically in the clear. There's no private, it's not a private communication channel. This is a public Q&A platform. And that really drives a lot of how we think about things like student safety and about things like ensuring high quality content. The answer to question ratio is really important to us. We want to make sure that there's a lot of answers to each question. And then they get sort of, there's like a voting system that sort of has things moving up. So if you're a pediatrician, you're looking at the pediatrician answers and you agree, you like it, and then it kind of goes up in the ranks. And that helps us to surface perspectives that reflect some sort of consensus if there is one. But what I think is actually interesting is that sometimes the questions go up and there's actually no consensus on the answer. We had that recently. A student said, should I go to college if I want to be a programmer? And then all these programmers came in and all these hiring managers at tech companies, and some of them were like, you should go to college and major in CS. And some said, I just hired somebody who didn't. So there's actually an interesting back and forth, but that conversation is not happening in the guidance offices in high schools right now. And that is really useful for the students to see. So we like to have that sort of breadth, and we watch it happen because we're moderating everything on the site, but that's sort of how we think about the moderation piece.
And Jared, how do you measure success?
Number of decisions made by students, we basically want that to be super high. At the end of the day, Career Village is a program that intervenes in high school, and we're trying to affect a 6 to 7 year outcome. So the way that we do long-term evaluation is a little bit hard at our scale. I'll share with you, full transparency, basically the best idea we have on how to do the very long-term assessment. And the approach is to basically look at all of our students' LinkedIn profiles and find out what actually happened. In fact, I would say this is not a Career Village specific thing. I would encourage everyone to use this assessment methodology. Basically just find out what happened when they finished their college career. So that's our primary strategy, which we're trying to roll out. There is, of course, one thing LinkedIn has to change in order to make that possible. And I would encourage you all to encourage them to do it, which is they need to allow other third-party apps to authenticate with a student's profile.
This is great. I think this can definitely scale, and I love the new approach in terms of reaching Fortune 500 companies. And as a first-generation college student myself, I can also see this being super helpful, because the reality is FGs are climbing a ladder that no one around them has ever climbed before.
Yeah.
I think they're the greatest bias here a little bit, but most interesting, most important people on the face of the earth. And so this is such a huge problem. I'm curious to better understand, what's the feedback from the counselors? I mean, that's a staggering statistic. Where are you getting it?
So we actually originally thought our go-to-market would just be every guidance counselor in America, and that's how we started. When we learned that the students were finding us on their own, we put a lot more attention on that. I think, but we did learn a lot, and we have all these sort of data, and we have free resources for guidance counselors to use. We want to make sure that it's integratable. Being a guidance counselor is super hard right now. There are a bunch of guidance counselors who look at Career Village basically as the way they can get to the next level. They're already at the top of the game. They need to, they're at KIP, they're achievement first, and they need to advance themselves to really make the best resources available. So they're jumping in with that. We have a lot of guidance counselors who are overwhelmed and overloaded, and they see this as like calling in the cavalry, because they're overwhelmed by the caseload. So we pretty quickly tease out who we're talking to when somebody calls us, and figure out what is the challenge. They're trying, are they trying to get to the best practice and be an innovator, or are they just trying to stay above water, and something to augment their one-on-ones, or something they can use to support all the kids that they feel they don't have enough time to talk to. It's very much like a time, how do I get leverage conversation that ends up happening. And I'm going to commandeer this question for one sec, just to say that if you're an educator in the room, your students are probably already using Career Village. So if you want to actually fold it into your curriculum, you can go to the site and download the educator resources or create an account for free.
So, audience, please, an opportunity for you to ask. Seems like we have probably.
We have a question right here. Thanks. You didn't talk as much about higher education and the career centers that exist there. What are you doing there?
At risk of potentially offending people in the room, we have not found a great opportunity to partner directly with career services, primarily because career services tends to be marginalized within the student body. And the way we have usually been folded into career services has been as another page in the resource binder, which is not an especially attractive place for us to be. So what we usually do is we make the educator resources available to higher ed. We allow those career services officers who are very innovative to basically roll it out using their latest programs and hopefully text messages with our friends at Signal Noise. But we go direct to your students. And that, frankly, I mean, I should flip it around, they find us, is usually how we end up supporting college-age students.
There's another one back here.
Could you talk a little bit more about the financial aspect of this and how you are will pay for this going forward as it scales?
Sure. So, so from a team perspective, we're a very, let's say, high fixed cost, low variable cost kind of model, because it's basically we're website management and moderation. So per student costs are right now under $2 per student, and they're going down as we get bigger. The cost for it, basically every corporate partnership that we do is kind of a bespoke, you know, they're enterprise level deals, so to speak. So they become kind of bespoke partnerships. But they are 5 or 6 figures, to give you a little sense for what that looks like. And that's usually a bargain relative to the competitive volunteer opportunities. That's sort of, you know, so the cost on a per student basis ends up getting distributed over basically staff, like we're software development, design, community management, and partnerships. That's our team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think that we are great on time. I really appreciate the participation of the panel and the audience. I wanted to give you one last chance to anybody that wants to ask this last question to our entrepreneurs before we start the deliberation process. So anybody has any final question for someone, panelists or audience?
What's your biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge.
Your biggest challenge.
So we're going to try to bring a mic over here, please. And we're going to give the...
Brian, what do you find your biggest challenge? Actually, the mic's coming.
Is it going to be lightning round? Can we do it for each?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's fine. Simple question.
I think right now our biggest challenge is getting the word out that this form of communication can scale for the higher ed institutions. Once they start using Signalvine, they continue to use it and they use it more. Our renewal rate is over 90%. The increase from year to year is, over 100%. So it really is a matter of just getting each institution to use it where the use case is going to be the strongest initially. Sometimes it's admissions, sometimes it's first year experience. And then once the institution understands that, they can really scale the communication and have a much broader impact.
You want to ask the same question to everybody?
Yeah, lightning round to
all right.
3 entrepreneurs.
I think for us, a lot of it is just awareness that this is an opportunity that's available, like similar benefit programs. As I mentioned before, pet insurance is available in nearly 100% of Fortune 500 companies, and many even pay for the premium. People don't even know that they can click a button and start saving for their kids' college education in small amounts, in the same way that they might, buy a Starbucks coffee every other day or so, and it adds up to a considerable amount of money with time, and which ultimately leads to significant affordability, right? But it's done on a self basis.
I'd say that organizationally, well, we're in Palo Alto, California, so it's just competing for awesome talent is a big challenge. And then strategically, we're expanding the site to allow countries outside the United States to participate. And so there's just a lot we need to learn about the education system in a lot of countries in order to do that well. That's sort of the other kind of strategic challenge.
All right, well, thank you very much. What we're going to do now is open the polls for the audience to vote. We're going to, what we recommend, Kirsten, 5 minutes? 5 minutes. You go to the app and you vote for the one that you thought should be the winner. We're going to convene over here, and I think that our colleagues over there, the ones that always give me the mic with an accent, are going to put some music so we don't have to hear the rumors and everything. And let's count 5 minutes, and we'll reconvene. And we'll be here in a moment. All right, we're reconvening. Thank you. This is never an easy moment for anybody, but the fact that we are giving today $50,000 is awesome. We love it. I neglected to say before that this challenge was in part viable because of Innocentive's help. Innocentive is the platform we use for crowdsourcing. So I'm going to ask Siobhan to come up here with me. She's the vice president of Innocentive, and I'm going to tell her probably what to do. So we have 4 things here. Some of them are winners, some of them are finalists. And we're going to start with the vote from our experts. I really appreciate what you did, and I really thank you for accepting this challenge for yourselves. It was a great debate. It's very hard. They were very happy. I mean, this is not BS. They were very happy with all of you. They were impressed. And we said that, you know, everybody here wants to continue the conversation with all of you, which is probably good news. Because some of these guys wear hats of investments and things like that, but I'm not going to say much. Other than that, we are here to actually communicate the decision that the panel decided that the winner of this competition, from their point of view, is Career Village. So I'm going to let you guys, there has to be some sort of a picture here.
Oh, we're taking a picture.
Yeah.
Yes. And so,
Thank you.
there you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
If you take that home, the check will come one day.
Thank you.
And since, you know, I've been told nobody passed me a paper. This was easy because they gave me the name, so I don't have to think about any other names. But it's always fascinating to hear that the audience has an opinion that could or could not be the same than the panel. In this particular case, the decision of the audience after the polls close is that the winner is Career Village. So you come upstairs.
Thank you.
And to the other 2, I want you to come upstairs because we have also a little thing for you. So one at a time, well, both at a time. Come on, come on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you want to go?
Oh.
We have cameras taking pictures.
All right. Thank you.
And with that, I think that we accomplished what we wanted to do. I really want to thank the entrepreneurs. I was telling them before that Lumina has this flywheel of getting our ducks in a row. We want to get more people in and through post-secondary learning. But we believe that entrepreneurs have a lot to say and a lot to do, so you're part of the Uber wheel, right? Once again, thank you, and have a great rest of the day.